Hello and welcome to the Tenfold AI podcast. This is MarketWatch edition. This is a super fun, for me anyways, series where we talk to marketers who are in the trenches doing work today. Sometimes we get into what they're doing with AI, perception of AI, forecast, kind of riffing on the future together. But I'm just really interested in how marketers are practicing their roles today, if that's shifting, and there are many reasons that it may, economic conditions, AI, all sorts of things. So I'm very excited to be talking to Nikki today, Nikkie Freeman. Hey, Nikki.
Hey.
Hey, Nikki, I met you at a networking event. I think it was primarily fractionals. I kind of didn't know that. A friend of mine who happens to be a fractional was the person who invited me. And I went, and it was in like the lobby of a hotel. I'm like, what the hell is this? What is this group? I still don't even know what that group is called, which I kind of like.
A few different names, but yeah, I think
Yeah.
Solutions Brokers is
Okay. Yeah. I think those are the best events where you go and you're like, is this just a bunch of friends or is this an organized group? I like when they feel more just like a bunch of, friends and comrades in arms getting together and having a drink, talking shop. And I was introduced to you, and I could tell right away you are sharp as hell, experienced in marketing, have been a CMO, are now acting as fractional CMO. And just, yeah, sharp as a tack. We were talking tactics, we were talking AI, and you were like not missing a beat. Like, I loved it. So
yeah, I can just remember being so intrigued by, because I think you and I share a love of all things data and analytics as well as marketing. And so when you were telling me about building this agency that's built on AI, I will admit at first I was skeptical, but I'm like, I'm so intrigued. I need to learn more about this. And then you followed up with me on LinkedIn and we went and had, I don't even remember, coffee or lunch or something and learned more about it. And it far exceeded what I thought it was. And so very impressive.
yeah, well, my gut was right about you too. Like you are very sharp, and I've talked with you in greater detail. I've met one of your clients who you're working with, and yeah, you're the real deal. I think in the fractional space and in marketing in general, let's be honest, there's a wide range of experience, of discipline, of knowledge. You can have marketers who are primarily creatives, and that's fantastic. You can have marketers who are primarily tactic oriented, where they're really good at this thing. And some of those people go out into the fractional CMO space, and you kind of learn you really are a tactician of a very small handful of things, but you really have that, I would say mid to enterprise kind of upper market experience at a CMO level, meaning like budget allocation and big picture thinking. And I
Yes.
love when you talk about like connecting marketing to sales, like you see all of the departments and how they should fit together. And then how do we make marketing expand all of those other departments? What are the goals of sales? How do we feed into that with marketing? How do we leverage what's happening in sales, like boots on the ground information? So yeah, there's a lot there that you have a ton of experience in,
Yeah. And I
which is
think a lot of
awesome.
it has come organically just because my career, which spans 30 years, has been in a few different disciplines, but it makes sense kind of how it evolved. And so I started in finance and data analytics, did that for about 15, 16 years. And then at one point, kind of mid career, I expanded into marketing. And the reason for that is digital marketing really started to take hold and take off. And traditional marketers maybe didn't have the data skill sets to make the right decisions as it came to digital marketing. So when you're thinking about like Google ads and SEO and all of these different, email marketing, and a lot of that is data driven. I found myself in a spot where my analytics team was driving some of the decisions for marketing and doing a lot of those marketing analytics. And so there had been a personnel change at the company. The head of marketing left and they moved marketing to me. And so then I started to get that experience. And then when I got recruited away for a CMO position at Staus, my last corporate role, I went in with the expectation of my role is to grow revenue. And if that can be done through marketing, great, but I'm going to explore every avenue that there is. And so, I built a sales team, which they had never had before, built it from scratch, set the comp plan, implemented a CRM. We started to develop new products, which they didn't have a new product development team. So I built that and launched that. We entered some new markets and built a brand new brand, kind of a startup e-commerce
Mm-hmm.
underneath that. And so then got promoted to chief revenue officer, just in recognition that I'm moving beyond marketing now and
Sure.
moving into some of these other things like sales leadership and product development and e-commerce solutions. And so just over the span of 30 years, I've got to operate in a variety of different kind of functions within an organization. And while I go to market now as a fractional CMO, I'm still going to bring those other kind of experiences and skill sets to my
Ugh.
clients. And so I'm looking beyond, hey, what can we do from a marketing perspective? And I'm looking at, do you want to exit in 5 years and we need to maximize your enterprise value? And here are all the things that you need to do that from a marketing perspective, a sales perspective, your revenue mix, your involvement from the leadership team, from the founders, and all kinds of things. So even though I'm kind of leading up the marketing piece of that, I really like to bring in all that other background and experience
Yeah.
that I have, because I feel like that's going to be the most value add
Yeah.
to my clients. And that's what drives me. That's what if I feel like I can really add value to them and to their businesses, that's what gets me out of bed in the morning and gets me excited.
That's amazing. Okay, you were like, I respect the hell out of you. You're way more experienced and knowledgeable about so many things. So, honest question. What do you think is the difference, like primarily the difference in the experience you've had and like a CEO? Like what more, obviously operations, like you'd have to have a purview on more of the, I guess, yeah, operating costs and things like that of a company. But it seems like I could imagine you doing that as well.
It's interesting because I've gotten that question a few times from like recruiters and things like that. I have not operated in a CEO function. I think the pieces missing probably are IT, HR, and operations. But operations from the standpoint of like sales ops, marketing ops, finance. Have always worked very closely with IT, as you know, being in marketing. There's so much that's tech driven that while I'm not the one, integrating CRM and marketing automation systems and physically doing the website redesign, I've led all of those projects with IT on my team.
Mm-hmm.
And
For
so
sure.
it kind of comes down probably to HR. I have no experience in HR.
HR is like the opposite of sales and marketing, I feel. I
Yes,
can
they're an
imagine.
important partner to have if you're leading sales and marketing teams, but I have not had any
Right.
experience when it comes to that. Yeah.
Yeah. I could see you in that role, but what do I know? Who knows? Um, so you talked a little bit about managing people. I want to dip into that for a moment. So you've led marketers, you've led salespeople. Those are not easy groups to manage and tend to be quite different from one another. From a like personality standpoint, they attract different, I don't know, motivators quite often, right? Um, what how would you describe your leadership style?
I would say I like to hire people who are naturally very curious and have the competency to figure things out. Like things change so quickly in marketing that hiring somebody that has a specific skill set and a specific tool isn't really enough because those tools are going to change. I mean, obviously change. We're going through this big evolution right now with AI. So having somebody who's like adaptable and can pick up new things and just naturally curious to go research it and figure it out is really important. From a leadership perspective, I think just setting a very clear vision of where we're heading and, placing some guardrails around that and then empowering the team to really shine and do their best and having some accountability there. I think I get the best out of people when there's no micromanagement. It's more of getting them bought in on the vision and getting them excited to go realize that vision, but giving them the capability and the kind of bandwidth to go figure out how to best do that, given that they're more the tactical expert than I am. So
Mhm.
that helps me kind of stay at that strategic level, knowing that I don't have to get really deep into these individual lanes. I'm going to trust that I've got that expertise on my team to get into those
Mhm.
lanes so I can stay at the strategic level and oversee and make sure everything is working together. Another
Yeah.
really cool thing that I did at Stouse I think was helpful is we went through and disprofiled everybody in sales, marketing, and customer service. And that was pretty powerful to just understand kind of the motivators and the way to communicate with different personalities. So we kind of all knew each other. Oh, you're a D and I'm a C. So we need to communicate in this way. And it helped diffuse some situations because you just understand well, if you're talking to somebody in this way and you're not providing any details, here's how they're perceiving it and here's how they're
Yeah.
going to react to it. So next time, if you want a better response, you need to provide a little more detail.
Yeah.
So I
It
thought that
helps a
was really
lot.
good.
Yeah, I find the disc helps a
It's
ton.
kind of like men are from Mars, when women are from Venus, or whatever. It's kind of the same concept, right? Like there's different personalities out there, and it's hard to say one's right and what's wrong. One's wrong.
Mhm.
It's really just how do we work together most effectively. And
Right.
that's been an important leadership skill that I learned.
I could not agree more. It changes the lens that you look at situations through. And actually, I just heard yesterday, who was it? It might have just been someone on social media talking about how she takes the personality profile outputs of her team, and I don't think she specified which one, and then she loads that into ChatGPT. So before they have a big meeting where there's going to be a potential disagreement or maybe some sticky collaboration that's going to likely to arise, she'll load in all of the profiles and then kind of ask ChatGPT to anticipate what the kind of landmines might be in that conversation, like
Okay.
before it happens. I thought that was brilliant.
That's
Like, this
amazing.
person's likely to, really want more information about this before making a decision. Or this person's probably going to immediately say yes and be mad if not everyone agrees, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, I can
Right.
think of an example. We did a disc at a company I worked for, and we had just recently done it, and we found that our creative director was a high D, high C, like pretty high in both of those. And the high C in a creative director is pretty unusual, I think.
Right.
But and he had pretty recently been promoted to creative director. And we got into a bit of a disagreement. He wanted to run with the brand of the agency in a certain direction. And I don't remember what it was, colors or fonts or something for the brand. And the ownership was like, yeah, we'll think about it, whatever. And this guy's like, hey, I'm creative director. What does this title even mean? Right. So, like, all of a sudden the temperature in the room goes up. Oh, he's pulling rank. He's being snarky.
Right.
Right. He's wanting to call the shots on this. And at face value, it looked like this guy's an asshole.
Right. Yeah.
It looked like this guy is too big for his britches, not realizing these people own the company. They're going to think about a new creative direction for their company. This guy's like, no, my title is creative director.
This is what we
This
need
is
to do.
cognitive dissonance right now that you're not just going with what I'm telling you. Right.
Right.
And a kerfuffle ensued momentarily. And I'm by nature very diplomatic. I'm a high I, high D,
Okay. I'm
very
high.
high I.
Yeah.
You're high I? Are
I'm
you
high.
high C at all?
A little bit of C just from the analytics piece of it, but I'm very predominant in high I. And
Okay.
Yep. But
Yeah.
here's the thing, I like to influence with data. So I guess that's
Yeah.
what I see how.
I like to do that too. And maybe that's from working with men a lot. I don't know. Who knows?
You're
But
like, "I
by
want
nature,
facts."
no, I like facts too. And I do like, I love critical thinking. The critical thinking process is like really fun for me, but I'm also a very emotional person. So go figure. But I'm very diplomatic and can see things through, other people's eyes. And so as they began to kind of argue and feelings are starting to get hurt among these people, I was like, wait a minute, pause. He was just analyzed for his disc. We know he's a high D, high C, which means this guy is a process guy. He probably should have been in the military. I think he probably would have killed it, actually. Like very regimented, very processed. If you tell him it's black and white, it's black and white. Like the guy is analytical to the nth degree. He also happens to be high D, which means when something doesn't make sense from a data standpoint to him, he's going to be very vocal about it and assertive in communicating that. So
Yes.
to us in this moment, it's seeming like he's coming from a place of pulling rank or trying to, usurp authority or something. But like, let's just take a beat. And all of a sudden, everybody kind of like, there was laughs and like, oh yeah, okay. That he's like, yeah, guys, I read the job description and I'm following it to a T and I'm a high D. So you're going to hear about it if it's, yeah,
It's interesting. I
long
had a lot of
story.
high D on the sales team, and they worked a lot with customer service, and they were, predominantly S. So
S. Yeah.
very process oriented. Well, these Ds were not Cs. They were not very process oriented, so they just wanted to skip if there's, 8 steps to something, they want to go from 1 to 8, and so that
Mm-hmm.
caused a little bit of tension, but I think just having that awareness from the disc profiling helped both of them understand where the other was coming from.
It does. It helps a lot in understanding and it emphasizes the importance of the right person in the right seat,
Yes.
right? Because if you're a high S and you're very patient and understanding and process driven and compliant, you're going to be a terrible salesperson
Right.
because the enemy of sales is time,
Right.
right?
Yes.
With enough
And we
time, you
we
can sell
profiled
anything.
too, like, so in the hiring process, we profiled,
Yeah,
and
you
we
have
would
to.
hire only Ds for our sales roles.
For sure. Yeah, 100%. Matt and I, joined up as partners to form ProMode. And about a month in, I had him take a disc profile because he's like, I don't know. I think I've taken that one before. And I'm like, yeah, I need you to take this. And I paid a Dan Stalp to run both of us and do like a full proper report. And he was kind of like, why are we doing this again? Because Matt's, very software startup guy. Like, we can't afford tests. We got work to do. And I'm like, we need to take a test. So
It's
we
gonna
did
help us
did our
along.
test and it was good that we did because we're very similar. Like he's
Okay.
also high I, high D, which I think makes sense. Like we have, lower risk tolerance. We're willing to go all in on starting a business. Like it makes sense, but it also means we have to, simmer down on the D from time to time and like listen more because we're both very talkative and like take a minute. Both of us be more disciplined. He's way more disciplined than I am. Um, yeah, knowing who you're working with is key. Question. So so you transitioned from a full-time CMO, CRO into fractional. What is it like? So you led teams of people that you worked long term with or that you would even hire into those roles. So you're kind of with them from their genesis of learning about the company. What is the difference like in terms of like the interpersonal communication side of stepping into a company from cold, being a fractional CMO? I'm imagining being the team and like, who the hell is this coming in to tell us what to do? How do you navigate that as a fractional, kind of like building trust of the team or, um, yeah, how do you do that?
Find that oftentimes, well, there's kind of two teams, right? One is the leadership team, the senior leadership team. How I operate best within a company is if they truly see me as part of their senior leadership team and I'm in their weekly leadership meeting and have a seat at the table and we're talking strategy and company and all that. And I have been very fortunate to have some great clients who view me as such and have put me in that role on their leadership team. And then there's the internal marketing team. And I think often they are relieved because they have now a champion that has a seat at the table of the leadership team. So a lot of times what I see are companies think, I need some marketing. And so they go hire junior marketing people and don't give them much direction in terms of strategy, goals, that type of thing. And so those junior marketing people are maybe posting on social media, doing a couple of email newsletters,
Right.
writing some blogs, and then leadership team says, "Oh, well, our revenue didn't grow. What's marketing doing? There's no value here, and they're at risk of being cut." Much less get budget maybe to invest in some tools or some agencies or some other tactics. And so I find that a marketing leader, even from outside a fractional, can help champion those ideas and sell in why we need the marketing budget, tying it to revenue goals, having a strategy, showing results, showing the return on investment. And so I would say they are excited for me to come in and be that advocate for them and help them provide, just more of a framework to work within so what they're doing doesn't seem so random.
That makes sense. So the point in a company where they are bringing on a fractional CMO, do you see any trends in that? Like, okay, they've had a marketing director for a couple of years, or is it a response from kind of born more from failure or more from growth? Failure being like, we've tried having a marketing director and a team and they fail every time. We clearly don't know how to install this department. Or is it, we've had this for a while, it's working, we want to level up. Let's bring in another layer on top of this. Or is it, am
Yeah,
I,
it kind of
yeah,
falls in a couple of different categories. So one, you're absolutely right where we need to level up. We've tried this and it's not working, so let's bring in somebody with more experience. Um, I've seen, we had a marketing director, they weren't effective. They let them go and decided rather than hiring another full-time person, they were going to outsource it and brought in a fractional from that perspective. But a lot of times, probably more often than not, I'd say maybe 60, 70% of the time, they've hit a they've never had marketing before. They've hit a revenue plateau and they don't know how to get out of it. And so they are thinking more ahead, like there's opportunity out there and we don't know how to go get it. But if we brought in the right strategic leader that can help guide us through that, then we're willing to make that investment and go that route. And those are really, really fun opportunities to get in because I can help them break out of that kind of plateau of revenue and really see growth and really see the value in having a marketing function. The way that often starts out is, I'll set the strategy and then I will outsource the execution through a combination of freelancers and agencies. But then we get to the point where you really have to hire a full-time person in-house, a marketing coordinator, a senior marketing coordinator, a marketing analyst, just one person in-house. But it doesn't have to be a highly paid like marketing director or full-time CMO. It just is somebody that can manage the execution
yeah, it
or
just
not
has to be the
do
right,
the execution. Like I can
right.
oversee it and provide the direction, but it starts to outgrow let's cobble together some freelancers and agencies. Now, that doesn't mean all the agencies go away or all the freelancers, but it does help accelerate the velocity of the progress that we're going to make towards our goals. So if I can get in and have some early wins, then it will fund that additional position and we'll start to accelerate even more quickly.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And then by that point, that you've gotten to know the goals, you know the data, you know the budget, you've plugged in an agency solution or whatever to start moving the ball forward. By that point, you're really you really have your finger on the pulse of what the skill sets of this internal hire need to be.
Yes.
Are we looking for someone who can do a little bit of CRM management plus, uh, some web maintenance? Like, what is the technical depth we're looking for versus the creative aptitude? And then you can go to the market and find that best fit for that role because it's way more expensive to do it the other way around, where you hire somebody, plug them in, and then you just outsource everything that they can't do.
Right.
I
Yes.
think there's a lot of companies that do that, but that's how you end up outsourcing and paying way more than you really should if your internal person could handle that important tactic that's like crucial to your strategy, then you would be saving a lot in the long run.
Right. Yeah. And there are certain skills that are, you know, kind of higher out or outsourced than others. And so,
Yeah,
graphic design, content, and even with AI, content becomes even easier to outsource because you can outsource it to AI agencies and companies. But it's harder to outsource somebody having day-to-day hands-on management of CRM and marketing automation workflows and getting leads into the system and making sure that everything is set up correctly and triggering over to the sales team and making quick updates to the website. I have found it's easier to have somebody internal that can do those things.
agree.
And it's going to
Yeah,
be a lot less expensive than trying to have these smaller one-off projects with an agency.
totally agree. And faster. Way faster. Like before we hit record today, we were talking about one of your clients producing a podcast, right? And it's like, okay, I've explored production agencies. They can be, up to 2 grand per episode to produce the podcast. It's like that's something that can easily be done in-house because of tools like Riverside that we're on right now that do a bulk of the editing with AI that add the transcripts. Is that the right? Not the transcripts, the captions. Yeah.
Captions, right.
That add the captions that clip out, social media clips for you to use. So you really need like a pretty minimal amount of skill and time to get the job done, especially when you know the place podcasts have in the strategy. We're not a podcast first strategy, so
Right.
it shouldn't be podcast first budget either. So it has to kind of align there. And you've just placed someone into a seat within that company who it sounds like has the technical skill to learn how to, you know, produce a podcast and launch it, and it will fit perfectly within the strategy and priority and cost, which will be very minimal for that client. So,
Yeah, and
yeah.
it's interesting case study in just how the evolution of marketing is that we're in at the moment and the skill sets that will be important. And so, people talk a lot about there will be those who embrace AI and those who fear it, and those who embrace it will be the ones to succeed. I do think AI can replace a lot of kind of, tactics, routine tasks, repetitive tasks that we previously had junior level marketing people doing, but that doesn't mean we don't need junior level marketing people anymore. Like we need marketing now
Yeah.
ever, but we need people who understand how to leverage AI and leverage the right tools and put them in a position, which I think is funner, honestly, to be more analysts and strategists, right? And rather than spending all their time producing a podcast, doing video editing, writing captions, they can work more strategically on, okay, here's a content strategy and here's where podcasts fit into it. And by the way, I don't have to do all the detailed work in order to produce that podcast. I can spend my time, figuring out what the content of the podcasts are going to be and reaching out to get guests and so on and so forth. And so I think, there are things that AI can do very well, both from a data perspective as well as from a content perspective. And I think there are things that it can't do well yet and maybe won't be able to ever do very well. And that's the why behind the strategy, the emotional connection with your customers, the leadership to rally teams and really move the needle on growth and moving that forward. And so I feel like we're in a defining moment right now with marketing in our field. And embracing AI isn't about chasing the latest trends. It's really more about future proofing your role and
Hmm.
leading the next wave of marketing innovation.
I love that. We talk a lot about that, and I feel sometimes in certain rooms like the message is not landing. Like last week we talked to 20 agency owners. It was sort of a intro discussion about licensing for ProMode, and there were a few hands raised, like there's some interest, but by and large it was like deer in the headlights of, you know, how is this different than ChatGPT? And, we're explaining that whole thing and we're like, hey, you're not future proofing your agency by using a $20 a month tool and copying and pasting generic, inaccurate content and delivering it as a professional deliverable to your client. Like,
Right.
that's full of risk.
Yes. And ChatGPT is really good at a lot of things. What it's not good at is original thought leadership content, which is really important, particularly in B2B. It doesn't automate. And so you still have to have a person that's, going to ChatGPT, trying to generate the content and then posting it on social media, putting on your blog posts, setting up an email newsletter, et cetera, et cetera. Where I personally have, where I was really impressed with what Promo could do is it automates all of that. And
Hmm.
it is taking our original thought leadership because it's not just going out and regurgitating information that's already on the internet and summarizing it in a different way, which is going to do nothing whatsoever for your brand in terms of, authenticity, SEO, authority, anything like that. It's taking our internal information as a company, our sales collateral, our videos, our, if we did podcasts, information from our website, all kinds of like thought leadership that we've worked on over the years internally and taking that information and repurposing it for various like social media and blog posts and web pages and email and then automating all of that and there's not all I have to do is go in and review it and hit click approve or if I need to change something to make sure it's on brand I can but I haven't really had to do that because it also knows our brand, our tone, our voice, what we say, what we don't say, how do we talk about our services. So those are things that I feel like you can't really get with ChatGPT. You can get still some things with ChatGPT and it can help facilitate brainstorming, content ideas, maybe doing a rough draft of things, but you definitely have to inject your own kind of thought leadership if you want to have any authority for that content or have it meaningful at all.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for all of those points of feedback. That's huge. And that's why we built it. Because in that whole, marketing content creation process, there's a couple of points where you can inject the important part. And then the rest is just the busy work of it all. And the strategy meeting with the client is one of those important parts. And then the creation of the content is the other part where you can inject that human touch, right? So if you're in an agency and the only part you're using AI for is that human part where you're supposed to be injecting the creativity and the potent brand vibe, and you're using that for AI or using AI for that component, and then the rest of it is manual and not automated and clunky and siloed and disconnected, all the things, you're not doing anybody any favors.
Right. Yep.
Like you're
And you're
having a
spending a lot
minimum.
more money than you need to for less output and lower quality output.
Exactly, you're just shooting yourself in the foot, and the light bulb will come on. It's coming on for some agencies, I know, but the light bulb will come on in a big way. My hope and why I'm so vocal about it is I want that light bulb to come on before all their clients leave.
Right. Yes.
While they have a business, and not every agency owner wants to be an agency owner in 5 years. There's I think, a growth curve where we've got a lot of agency owners kind of looking in the not too distant future at retirement.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Mazel tov, sail off into the sunset,
Right.
do your thing. But then, if you want to be an agency owner in 5 years and you don't want to start from zero on your client list, Like, that's who I'm talking to when I'm saying, "Hey, let's just don't even think about pro mode. Like, forget about pro mode, forget about me trying to sell you something. Let's just look at the facts here of how much time is it taking you to get content out the door? Which piece of that are you using AI to accelerate? Is that a net benefit to the client? Well, no, they're leaving because the content's not good. Okay,
Yep.
then either don't use AI
Mhm.
at all and
Right.
just charge your clients way more because you're the last standing, completely, farm to table agency or
Right.
whatever, you
Exactly.
know,
Old
you're
school.
the
Maybe it'll be right trend.
non-GMO. Yeah, you can be the Whole Foods of agencies if you want. I don't know, and charge preciously for it. Or
Well,
you
it's
can,
interesting because they talk about like, marketers need to either embrace AI or fear it. And if they embrace it, those are going to be the ones that win. And that's kind of more on an individual level. But from an agency perspective, I would think, you know, people, if you think about a SWOT analysis, the number one biggest threat is AI to marketing agencies. So if they are not ahead of the curve right now and thinking about that and making plans of how they're going to adopt it and how they're going right size their agency, in terms of headcount, right size their pricing to the market because there's going to be, I think, some price realization that happens as
for
AI
sure.
starts to expand, then they're going to be left in the dust.
Yeah, I could not agree more. It's like before the Industrial Revolution, every time you bought a chair or I don't know, anything, right? Any commodity good, anytime you bought something, it was very expensive. Like you'd have your furniture and it was your grandmother's and you'd give it to your kid or I'm sure there's plenty of other examples, a wagon wheel. I don't know. Everything just was very expensive to replace because everything's one off.
Right.
Everything's custom. Like go have a custom chair made today. It's not cheap. If you've ever had anything upholstered, it's like
Mhm.
I could buy 3 chairs for that. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
It's that custom element, but then you add in factory production of goods and the cost comes way down for everyone. It's the same thing with AI that is happening now and will continue to happen. And we think marketing will be one of the first like fully disrupted spaces. And part of that is because you're dealing with much less sensitive data. Um, to create things like RAG model AI architecture, right? We're building databases of your publicly available marketing data. And if we create content you don't like, it's like, okay, I don't like it. I can see and understand I don't like it. I can say no. But if we did the same thing for accounting, that's a bigger lift. Now we have data security that needs to be airtight. And if we're giving insights that would result in you spending money, right? Like this is your financial forecast, click this button and the AI bots will make all these financial decisions for you. That's a lot,
Right. Yes.
and we're not there yet. The public safety, sentiment is not there yet with AI, which is why every car isn't self-driving right now.
Right.
The
Yes.
technology is there, but I think I heard self-driving cars have to be, was it like 10 or 20 times safer than human-driven cars in order for people to feel comfortable using it.
Right. Yeah. No, it doesn't surprise me at all because, sometimes, well, and we're seeing that AI is ahead of where we are emotionally in terms of willingness to let go of this perception of control.
Totally. Yeah,
And it's unproven. So like you said, um even if we evidence that it's a secure environment and your data is not going to leak out and all of that, it's like, okay, but how much experience do we have to prove that that's the case? Or, who's going to be the guinea pig of that? Who's
right.
wants to be first on board with like, no, we swear it's secure. Put all your most
Yeah,
sensitive financial data into this, and we promise it won't feed our models.
totally. It's I think, it's like a good example of how AI is forcing us, especially those of us who are like leaning into it and learning about it a lot. It's forcing us to analyze our own humanity, our own psychology in a different way. Um Yeah, because we like to have someone to blame if things go wrong. Like, who do I sue? Who do I fire? If my AI CFO misallocates funds, what's my recourse?
Right? There's no scapegoat then. It's on you.
Right. I don't feel like someone else has skin in the game to do good on my behalf in the same way.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense.
So, I mean, perhaps full adoption or adoption at that level of trust, things like money, things like personal safety, cars, AI doctors and AI surgeons and all of those things. Perhaps that's a buying generation or two away because I think our children and our children's children will have very different feelings about AI just because of their experience in it in their
Yeah, they will
adolescence.
have grown up with it and feel better about it. But
Yeah.
yeah,
My
no, to
mom was a
your point.
robot.
Yeah, I mean, it makes exactly. It makes so much sense that marketing would be one of the first places that we see it really starting to take hold and see a lot more use cases and applications of it. I mean, even, again, on the data side, you've got things like predictive analytics and machine learning on data, which have been around forever. We just before we ever started talking about AI, I used to manage teams that had some highly skilled data analysts or data scientists that did that work. And now there's some tools that can help facilitate that, and it democratizes that analysis a bit because now you don't need to be able to afford these big data science teams in order to have this really robust predictive analytics for like customer segmentation and marketing personalization and things like that. You do need to a a skilled data science agency or an experienced marketer that knows AI, that knows how to train the models, build the models, understand the use cases, when being able to be critical of the output and understanding where you need to kind of steer it in a different direction. But there are agencies out there that can do that for you for a much lower price than trying to build a team in-house to build all those capabilities. And I think that's an important thing to understand as companies might feel overwhelmed with, gosh, how do I adopt AI beyond ChatGPT? Because we just don't have the resources or the bandwidth or the budget to have AI developers in house build all this stuff for us. It's like, that's not what this is about.
No.
You can take advantage of a lot of the very robust capabilities of AI by outsourcing it to agencies who can build it and run it and train it.
Yeah, totally. That makes a lot of sense. So let's see. Okay, kind of doubling back, you mentioned junior marketers, and we're talking about AI advancement, evolution, the future. If you think about you're a young marketer or you want to go into marketing, like what do you think that career path will look like? I saw a LinkedIn post a couple weeks ago. This guy was basically saying, what's going to happen to junior marketing roles? Meaning, how are we going to, if we're supposed to be more creative and more strategic, that's great for those of us who are in a position to do that today, right? But we all came from somewhere. We all had to kind of grow through the ranks and learn tactics and build upon those skills over time. And then some of us became strategists or CMOs. Uh, so what's that journey like if none of those tactics and kind of like grunt work, for lack of a better word, if AI is doing all of those, then how will junior marketers, or is this something if you haven't given it much thought, I would understand, but like,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be they'll be repurposed into more, and it sounds weird to say like more of a strategist role because how are you a strategist if you haven't done the work? But it's also kind of like, we have calculators that didn't like put accountants out of business. And so that we have tools, and those tools are great at helping us be a lot more efficient and producing better output and more output in very little time. So we need a different skill set in the role. So rather than having somebody who can create social media posts, we need somebody who understands how social media fits into a broader strategy and which tools to leverage in order to produce those posts, how to ensure that it fits with brand, and run all that. It's not going to run itself. You still have to have somebody there that understands it and what tools to plug in. It's interesting. I have an intern working for me this summer, a college intern, and I'm having him work on AI, building some AI agencies to perform marketing tasks. And my hope is that that helps that kid be more marketable going forward.
Yeah, I love that.
So he's
Maybe
getting
send him our way when you're done.
they can do it, like, as he gets out of because then, he's having a different set of skills that are gonna be more applicable to the future role of marketing, of finance, of business in general. You're gonna have to know, what's the landscape of AI tools? What is the availability? When is it appropriate to use? When it's not appropriate to use? What kind of human review needs to be had, and what kind of input needs to be there, and how do you prompt it correctly? So I think it doesn't do away with the need for those junior people. I think it requires those junior people to have a different skill set.
Yeah, I agree. I think everything will start moving faster on the execution side because of AI. Whether you're using AI or not, enough people will be that there will be significantly more social content, significantly more web content, more email content, and there will probably be a fever pitch, I think, of all of those things. And then there will be an adjustment made. It might be some kind of algorithm restriction or who knows. So we have some ideas, but it gets a little fantastical after that. In the near term, that internal marketer, junior marketer needs to have a really solid understanding of why they're doing social media marketing. Like you said,
Right.
the strategy, like where does it fit into the brand? Like, why are we doing this? Because if you know why you're doing it, rather than we post 2 times a week because that's what companies like ours do. It's like, hey, the rules are changing, the landscape's changing, all your competitors are shifting. Like, if you're going to keep doing the same tactics that have always been done at the same volume, like, you will get lost in the shuffle. So, why are we doing this? And then it might be that you have to think of new ways to accomplish that same why.
Right. Yeah,
For
for
sure.
sure. I mean, I think
Yeah.
they're gonna have to be really good analysts. So look at the data, to see, is engagement then going down because now all of a sudden there's like this content fatigue, like people are overwhelmed, kind of like, we went through digital fatigue for a while because everybody was getting bombarded with digital ads. And so they've got to stay on the forefront of what are new methods, new tactics that we can be testing because, as we mentioned, marketing's always changing. And I think it will change even faster now because as AI comes in, people are going to get that fatigue even quicker. And so you're going to have to find new methods of getting people's attention. Um,
Right.
it's interesting. You and I had this discussion a couple of weeks ago. It's a great time to be in direct mail. It sounds old school, but it
Yeah.
cuts through the noise. There's so much going on digitally that if you got a really, nice plastic direct mailer with an offer from a brand that you love or a brand that you've been wanting to try out, like that's really going to cut through the noise of everything else that's going on digitally. Um,
Agree.
grab attention. Whether it's a movement back towards more kind of traditional offline marketing methods, or maybe it's something new that, is up and coming that we haven't discovered yet. I think we'll have to continue testing and evolving and changing as people's preferences change and as spaces start to get a little more crowded.
Yeah. I think it's a great time for face to face networking as well.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
I've gotten back into it a fair amount. I should probably do more, but yeah, almost every time I've gone, put myself in a networking scenario, something has come out of it positively because I feel like there is this, we're at this interesting point with AI where fraud is at an all-time high. We've got spam out the wazoo, like in your email inbox, and it's like, who do I trust? Who am I
Right.
like, there's just so much noise everywhere. Is it AI generated? Is it not? Is this a video of a real person or is this not? Like there's just a lot of doubt and like you said, fatigue.
I think video is another one that is a good place to be right now because
Yes, I agree.
don't trust AI video. And if you've watched any on like YouTube or Reels or anything like that, you can spot it pretty quickly and it's
Yeah.
just bad. I mean, like the pronunciation is bad. It's not engaging. There's no personality. It's just not good. And so, I've got a couple of clients who are big in YouTube and creating YouTube videos. I'm like, let's keep doing that. Like that is
Uh-huh.
be huge. And even with, SEO changing, YouTube is the second largest search engine. And so having authentic video content that people want to engage with and want to watch, I think will be kind of another important, at least for now. Once
Yeah.
AI gets better and the AI videos are better, then maybe that changes. But I feel like for right now, it's a good place to be.
Yeah. I think the higher trust um, your offer requires, which I think that's categorically B2B. And then
Well, and
with
for service, especially.
mhm.
Like if you just had a bunch of AI videos and content and all of that, where's the human connection behind it? It kind of gets back to earlier when I said, here are the things AI is going to do really well for us and accelerate our output and even the quality of output. But what it can't do is that emotional human connection, the why behind the strategy, and some of those other the leadership of the team and guiding the team, setting the vision.
Yeah,
But yeah, that human connection is so important in a service and in B.
it is. And that's exactly why we say, we think the age of AI will unleash creativity in a way that nobody's had time to do,
Right.
time
Yep.
or budget to do. Because
Yeah. We don't
if
have
you're
time
spending
because
a
we're so busy in the tactics, and now we
right,
can.
so busy in tactics within every agency I've ever seen. Granted, there's very creative agencies that live in that world, but that's pretty rare. And if you're in the mid market, you probably hire an agency that's primarily tactic driven because you need to move the needle. And if you're an internal marketer, you probably spend most of your time doing tactics, creating social calendars and launching content, fixing the website and creating something for the sales team. Like you're busy doing all these things. But necessity is the mother of invention. Invent creativity. You get
Right.
creative when you have to. So part of it will be there's more time and bandwidth and budget to be creative. Yay. And then part of it will be holy shit. If I'm going to have a job in this field, I can't be a robot. We have robots for that now. I
Right.
need to find the human connection, do the human thing, more events and like make trade shows more meaningful, association collaborations and like multimedia.
Isn't it
It will be
ironic
exciting.
a little bit for young people because we talk about, needing that skill set and having that ability for the human connection, but I feel like the younger generation struggle with that a little bit because they grew up with their iPhones and they don't have as much of that face-to-face connection. And
Hmm.
so, that will be interesting of how, it's would you say necessity is the mother of invention? It's like necessity is the mother of that as well. I mean, it's not invention, but it's maybe like reinventing yourself and who you are and how you connect with people.
Yeah. Well, I think we're seeing a bit of a shift in Gen Alpha. And I think my oldest two kids are technically Gen Z. And then the younger two are Gen Alpha. But they all, and their friends, like, none of them are like, I want to go into AI. I want to go into technology. I am excited about AI. They use ChatGPT more so as like a joke. My oldest, she's 17 and she has a GPT that she talks to like for casual entertainment. We're not talking like she's emotionally dependent on this thing at all. But she calls her Natalie. She's like, let me see what Natalie has to say about this. And she'll chat with it. But by and large, like her future plans don't include technology at all. She wants to be a midwife and own a birth center. And I'm
Okay.
like, okay. And then our other older kiddo wants to be a teacher. And we'll talk to them about AI because I'm trying to get them to like not say I want to go into a career in AI, but to get them to understand you are likely going into a career that will be heavily influenced by AI. Teaching, medicine, like I can't think of anything that won't be in some way influenced for one reason or another. And we'll talk to them about it and their eyes just glaze over.
Right.
And they aren't on social media all the time, and their friends really aren't either. It's kind of funny. Like the
That we expect those, or not expect, but oftentimes those younger generations are kind of the ones on the forefront of technology. But I'm kind of this, like my daughter's a nurse. I don't know. She maybe has used ChatGPT before, but she's not a regular user of any AI technology.
Yeah.
My boys, you can't really, they're in college, you can't, and even though they're in business and like finance, analytics type education, they can't really use it for their assignments. And so they're not really using it on their free time.
Hmm.
It's interesting how that will start to.
Yeah. I think they're so, maybe it's because our generation is leaning into it more, or it's people who are of our generation, like their parents' age, who are at the forefront of the social conversation, like Elon Musk and, Sam Altman. Like these people are not in their 20s. They're old enough to be their parents. So they're like, ah, these old people think robots are taking over. This is hilarious. Which is kind of interesting. It's like, are we all wrong? Or is the younger generation gonna, come up and be like, yeah, no thanks, and just turn it off?
Yeah. Yeah, I do have a funny story, and I'm not going to mention this person by name or even what their role is in my life, but somebody in my family who is around my age, I asked them about ChatGPT the other day, and she goes, "What's that?"
Right.
ChatGPT, and I'm like, "Have you lived under a rock? Like, who hasn't heard of ChatGPT?" I just thought it was kind of funny. So then I gave her
Mm-hmm.
some use cases of things that she could use it for, so I think she's gonna try it out now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. My kids aren't super keen on it, and the older generation, like my dad, just thinks ChatGPT should know everything. Like he doesn't understand that it's just a knowledge base of stuff, not a knowledge base of truth necessarily,
Just like
you know,
yeah, you're gonna
just
find
like
all
the
kinds of
internet,
stuff on the
right?
internet that's not true, and ChatGPT is basically a summarization of all kinds of information that's out on the internet.
Exactly. He's like, I asked it if the 2020 election was rigged, and it gave me all kinds of and I'm like, Dad, it does. What do you think it is? It's not an oracle of truth or something, but no, it's funny. It will be very interesting to obviously see how things unfold in marketing and society around us in the next few years. But I think you're positioned well to lead companies into that change without abandoning kind of the common sense and proven business practices. I perceive you as really being like a two for one from a fractional standpoint, because I'm just kind of imagining if I'm a business owner who's looking for a fractional, maybe they're saying, should we hire a fractional sales leader or a fractional marketer? I don't know. We kind of need a little of both. Not really sure. Can't afford both. You would be a fantastic option having experience, and you're going to have a toolbox that will affect both of those departments as needed. So if you get in a few months down the line and you're like, this is primarily a CMO operation that I'm running right now with you guys, and that's what you need, cool. Or if it's, we have some work to do on the sales side, but we're going to kind of juggle marketing. I just think you're kind of a rare breed in the fractional space for that reason, and that's very cool.
Thank you. It's
Yeah.
as I at the beginning of the call I talked about I'm always going to bring those different experiences that I've been fortunate enough to have throughout my career because I can't just have blinders on that I'm just a CMO. It's like I'm going to go in and see where there's opportunity and my number one goal is to help them grow revenue, grow it profitably, grow the valuation of their firm, all of those things. And so, yeah, some of that's through marketing, but sometimes it's going to be through other things too. And whether
Yeah.
I'm right person to help them through that, great. If not, then at least identifying this is another kind of role that you need to hire within the team because this is a issue that needs to be addressed, or this is an opportunity for growth that can take off if you have the right person that can lead it and all of that. That's my jam. It's what I love to
I love
do,
it.
help them learn how to grow.
Yeah. So are there any, I don't know, company identifiers? Like what types of companies are you looking to support? Size of company? Like what's kind of an ICP for you?
Yeah, so small to mid-size, generally, between 10 and 100 million, but I'll work with smaller or bigger if needed. And I've done a lot in B2B, but also, I do have B2C experience as well. Strong background in digital marketing, so Google Ads, SEO, email, social, kind of all that, websites and conversion rate optimization. So yeah, it kind of runs the gamut, but what I find is that generally people have a problem that they haven't figured out how to solve, and that's I've stalled out on revenue and I don't know how to grow. I've had marketing in the past, but it didn't work and I didn't see an ROI. Not enough people know, not enough of my target audience know that I even exist. My competitors seem like they're out competing me. General kind of problems that people have that they don't know how to solve that I can come in and help them solve.
Yeah, love it.
A lot of industry experience in manufacturing, printing, freight, telecom, multi-location businesses.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I really appreciate your time today, Nikki. You keep me on my toes because you're a smart cookie. I almost said a sharp cookie, but I guess that doesn't make sense. Thank you for, yeah, being a Promode user and recommending us for your client. And we love working with you, learning from you, and just collaborating into this AI future that we're careening right into.
Yes, and thank you for the partnership. I've been a big fan of an advocate of Pro Mode. And like I said, I was kind of skeptical at first, but after you and I talked and you explained how it worked, I'm like, this sounds amazing. And Uh, you're really kind of being a disruptor in that space by being one of the first movers. So I have a lot of respect for what you and Matt are building.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And we'll have to grab lunch soon and have a glass of wine. But in the meantime, this has been the MarketWatch podcast, a special series by the Tenfold AI podcast, where we talk to marketers who are in the trenches today, working in AI, usually like Nikki. This podcast is sponsored by Promode.ai, the marketing AI engine of your wildest dreams. Thanks, Nikki, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you.
All right.